What's up, socialites? Welcome back to the Survivor Social Podcast, the podcast where we focus on Survivor with a social lens. My name is Tegwith, your host, and of course, we've got our incredible co-host, Kara, here today. Kara, how are you doing?
I'm doing good. I have so many thoughts from this episode. My mind has been like going a mile a minute about it, so I'm excited.
And we have probably one of my favorite episodes every season is with this incredible human being, Frannie. How are you doing?
I'm doing so fabulous. I'm so psyched to be back here with you guys. I remember the first time that we podcasted together, I was like, I'm just hanging with the girlies. Like, we should have the best time ever. So I'm so thrilled to be back. Also, Kara, want to take a moment for your bangs. Yep. They're so cute. I love them. I know you've had them for a little bit, but this is the first time I've seen you since they got cut. So I'm very impressed.
Thank you so much.
They look really good.
Absolutely. And especially now that we've got Mary with the bangs and Kara with the bangs. Bangs are making a comeback. We love. Yeah. We love.
Yeah. That's so good.
Frannie, how are you, before we get deep dive into this, how are you feeling about this season as a whole now that we're, got two people on the jury? It's, starting to shape up. We're getting close to the end here.
Yeah, we are in a really exciting phase. I have really high hopes for this season. I just want to throw out there, I got rid of Twitter a couple of months ago just because it was feeling really negative. And I re-downloaded it last week, for a specific reason. And that was my first kind of exposure to what the Twitter Survivor world was thinking about the season. And I have Blue Sky, and things aren't quite as negative on Blue Sky. It's mostly the positive people that have crossed over. And so I really got to see there's kind of a lot of negative feedback. And I say all that to make clear, I'm really loving this season and I have a lot of good feelings about it. And so I'd also like to, take a moment to dispel some of the negativity that people have put out there, because I think that there are a lot of positives about this season and I still think it's fabulous. Yeah.
Totally agree. And my big thing also is I think that one of the things that kind of upsets me in the internet Survivorverse, whatever, is if it's not perfect, it's horrible. If it's the most incredible, amazing gameplay you've ever seen ever, we're mad, we're angry, and we hate it. And that's sad because I think, the big thing about Survivor is you go back and look at the season as a whole and you really just I don't know, it's a one whole big thing and it's hard to take it one episode at a time and really see how the whole picture looks. But I mean, everyone was talking about how this was the best pre-jury in recent history. And now everyone's mad. I'm it's been 3 episodes. Let's calm down, people. You know what I mean? But I'm glad we're on the same page.
Yeah. Also, people will find something to be mad about literally no matter what. That's the thing with, especially on Survivor Twitter and Reddit. It's there will never be a perfect season. It's somebody will always be upset about something. They love it.
People love being haters.
Yeah.
Love being haters.
They eat it up. I saw somebody talking bad, saying how Heroes versus Villains was not an overrated season. It was a bad season. And I'm that's just objectively not true. You're false. That's a wrong take. You can have an opinion and opinions are never wrong. That's a wrong opinion.
Congratulations. For the first time ever, a wrong opinion. Yeah, you did it.
You did it. Yeah. Crazy. It's crazy. Kara, how are you feeling after now we've got the second juror? How are you feeling about this? How's it shaping up?
I'm enjoying the season. I'm enjoying the cast and the different dynamics we have. I know the strong 5 plus Mary is not very well. It's not being received pretty well, I guess, from people. But you know what? It's different. It's different than what we've seen in the past couple seasons. So I find it kind of interesting that this is happening. And yeah, I don't know. This episode I feel really made me think forward and what are they doing with this edit? Is really where my head is at with this episode.
Very real. Very real. Just a reminder to everyone who's watching right now, we are live right now. So please, we love the comments. Gemini's here saying, yay, Frannie. Lexa says, you guys get the best live guests on this podcast. Very cool. Very exciting. I feel like this podcast is the best kept secret in the Survivor world. Yay. Can't believe it's not 1 million people here. You're right.
Get a million people here. We're doing it tonight, baby.
Exactly. And Daryl says, what Daryl says, Camila needs to stop calling my baby boy David an idiot. Here's the thing. That's funny. Like she's funny. Let's get into the episode though. Let's jump right in. I want to start off with a question to both of you. What is the strongest animal you think you could take?
I literally wrote that down too with like 2 stars next to it. It's like I need to ask. Okay. I think that everyone in this episode was really overestimating, right, the animal that they could take down. I had a good think about it, and I feel like I could take a chonky raccoon. Like a big raccoon. They're a little ferocious, but definitely smaller than me. But they're fat. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like we'd be well matched. And people who are like, Joe saying he could take down even an old gorilla, my guy. You couldn't even take down David in that challenge. How do you think you're taking down a gorilla? How are you doing?
Yeah. First of all, I would never choose violence when it comes to an animal. I never ever. Let me put that on.
We open with a negotiation. Let's work it out.
Yeah, exactly. I really believe I'm one of those people who really believes that like if an animal is coming at me, I could just really like connect with them and be like, hey, I don't eat you, so love me. That kind of thing. So I would die. So I think really the answer here is none, because I think I would die.
Yeah.
None of the above.
No, I agree. If an animal is coming at me, I'm going the other way. Like I'm not even bothering.
Yeah. Well, let's be clear. I agree with that. Like if I'm just in the world and I'm being approached, we are turning hightail. But like say it's like arena style. It's a matchup. There has to be a victor. I just finished Sunrise on the Reaping to get today, so I'm very Hunger Games. There has to be one victor. Who can you take down?
I also think the biggest animal I could take down is just like an annoying guy in a bar. That's the animal I could take down.
David during this tribal council, perhaps.
Yes, exactly. That's yeah. No, I feel like I could take down like a small snake.
I think
okay.
No, but like a small scary snake. Like a small like if a boa constrictor was coming at me that was only like 3 feet long. I don't know. I feel like I could do something with that. They're very strong though. I don't know. I take it back.
Not poisonous though. So that's going for you.
That's going for me. I don't know. Kara, what could you do?
Maybe like a little bunny rabbit or something. I don't know.
You know what? We're doing the opposite of what I think Frannie gave a very good answer. Kara and I are doing the opposite of what they did. They were overestimating their ability. Yeah. We're underestimating ours, but
I just know I wouldn't be able to do. I wouldn't be able to fight any animal.
Daryl says I could take down a baby fox.
See, that's real. Okay. That's realistic.
That's realistic.
Thank you, Daryl.
Yeah,
that's realistic. A squirrel. Like I know that seems silly, but like a crazed squirrel,
ferocious. Yeah.
So
that's
I don't know. That's kind of what I'm thinking. I love this moment. I love the start to the episode though, because it really like it's funny, it's engaging, and it gives you more of like what's going on at the beach. Like people are filling time. So they're gonna ask silly, random, weird questions like what's your humble trait or whatever else, or what is the largest animal you think you could take in a fight. And I loved like seeing that moment. Frannie, when you were out there on the beach, can you remember any kind of conversations like this? Was there anything that you could like any kind of funny convo?
Yeah, there were plenty of funny convos. We talked a lot about Carolyn's dog at the time, who has now since passed, rest in peace, Kramer. He had a lot of digestive issues before Carolyn came on the show, and she told us like about her journey, like figuring out what to feed him that wouldn't make him completely spray diarrhea. That was like a favorite topic of discussion. We were always like, why is your dog eating sweet potatoes? That's not normal. We talked about that a lot. We played a lot of I Spy. This actually made it onto one of the episodes, but that was a big one. Yeah, you got to pass the time. The other reason I really like this in the episode is from Joe, especially. He was so funny. Like when he was like saying, I could take this gorilla or like a really fat pig. That totally got me. And I feel like Joe is somebody that we've seen upheld as like a really intense and like he's been a part of every really intense and emotional moment. And so it's really fun to see this way more silly, goofy side of him. I appreciated that.
I totally agree. And I really think that like I've been saying this for a while. I have a very like ever since episode 2, I have a very strong feeling that Joe is going to win the season just because of like there's just something about there's like a je ne sais quoi about his about you know, about his edit where I can't pin down exactly why I've been thinking this, but there's the way they're telling his story or the way they're approaching him. It just feels like there's something to it. And seeing that he is also able to have fun, it's like we're getting the full picture of who this guy is. And I think that this is another instance as to like why I think maybe, you know, he could be going forward because it was so funny. Like the fat pig is so funny. And then I was watching live and like he couldn't take a boar. Like they were like talking about wild boars, but fat pig, that's different, you know?
Yeah. Pig at the farm. Yeah. Okay. The je ne sais quoi about Joe, this is something that I really noticed in this episode. And I think that this is true to his position and dialogue in the game, but also an editing choice is he's never portrayed talking negatively about people, even people that he's not working with. Like 2 episodes ago, he was talking about Mitch. He describes them very positively and in a good light. And even when he is maybe choosing like the wrong decision, choosing to vote the wrong way, we're always shown him like approaching it positively. And it never makes it look like he's a villain or he's like making the wrong decision. Whereas I think David was portrayed very positively at the beginning of the season. I think you know, the tables are turning a little bit on that. And that for me, from an editing perspective, really made it feel like David's chances of winning are like dwindling.
Yeah, totally agree. How do you feel about that, Kara?
I agree. Oh, for Joe, yeah, I thought it's funny. I feel like we get like, I don't know. I feel like I just want to hear more of Joe's thoughts about the game and like what he's thinking more. We get pieces from him, but like I want more. But I do feel the same about David. Like for the beginning, he felt like he was like the hero. He was like this nice, like likable guy. And then after this episode, I was like, oh, this is his villain arc beginning now, which is so interesting because before that, I was like, I could see him winning. I could see him making it to the end. And now I'm like, never mind. I don't think so.
Yeah.
But I'm curious, like having been on the show and like knowing who wins and like watching your season back, is it make it like when you're watching like other seasons, can you tell like who you think might be the winner from the edit and like knowing how that is?
A little bit. Yeah. So that's an interesting question. I think that let me be clear. This is the first season, I think, since I was on that I was not spoiled on who wins. I have no idea who wins this season. And maybe last season I didn't know until like close to the end, and then I found out. So the experience is really different this time. I feel like more what being on and like watching my season taught me is how to identify who I think is not going to win based on editing. And that's also not even really a skill I gained from being on the show. It's like, who's not being shown at all? You know, poor Star got like 1 confessional, and it was only because she lost her vote when she's one of the most engaging speakers on this season. And then people who are like being portrayed sort of overtly negatively, like David with some of his comments this week about his alliance. But yeah, I'm a pretty firm believer that if you watch a whole season clean, you see who wins, that is a very different experience than watching knowing who the winner is. And sometimes I like, you know, rewatching or watching a season knowing who wins because you pick up on so many more details. Like when I knew Jam Jam was going to win, all the choices that were made, like the conversations that were shown with him, I was like, oh, I know exactly why that's being shown. Whereas a viewer might just be like, okay, throwaway scene. Yeah, it's fun. It's kind of like it tickles the brain a little bit.
Yeah. I think that's one of the things that I really love about Survivor versus some other like I'm not used to watching Big Brother. I just started watching 2 years ago. So I started watching in 25. And the thing that's very hard for me in Big Brother that I'm like, it's really hard to wrap my head around is nobody knows who's going to win. Like this is literally in real time. And the editors know that nobody knows. Nobody knows what's going to happen. And it's really, really weird because I think I love watching like murder mysteries. I love watching, like Ian and like Knives Out. I love all of the Agatha Christie, all of those things because I like working out the puzzle of like what's a hint, what isn't a hint, what's a red herring. And that's one of the things. It's like one of the reasons why I love Survivor also is because it's a great show. I love the social dynamics of it all. I love the games. I love that. But I also love this puzzle that people are putting out there for me to try to figure out. And I'm not like edgic. I'm not good at that. But I love just like kind of reading the vibes of what is going on and like why they're making some things. Like last year, I thought Rachel was almost too obvious, but then it ended up being Rachel. And then, I just think it's so fun. And like you said, going back and rewatching it, like I haven't rewatched all of 43, but I felt blindsided by Gabler's win. And then like you go back and you're like, oh no, they really basically gave him the Ala Gabler edit. And they told us that they were going to do it. And then they did it and we were shocked by it, but they literally told us that they were going to do it. So it's so fun. It's one of the many reasons why I love this show.
And and Survivor loves a red herring. They're feeding it to you and you're eating it right up.
Absolutely. There was not this last episode, the episode before, there was like a red herring of a red herring because whenever somebody says like I feel so comfortable and I'm so good and I feel like I'm gonna win the game, Shaheen said that.
Shaheen said that.
He's gone home. And then he didn't go home and I was like, oh, it was a red herring of a red herring.
Yeah.
You're like, they got me. I'm playing 4D chess. I'm too high.
It's so good. It's so funny.
Kara,
so I just want to ask, like, how do you feel about this, like, strong six, like, alliance? Like, obviously, Joe is a big part of it. Now, I guess it's like a strong five now, plus Mary. Do you think that they are going to, like, stick together and, like, actually be able to make some moves in this late stage of the game?
I mean, if they stick together, the only moves they're going to be making is just against the people that aren't in their group. So I don't think they're going to stick together. I think Kyle's going to break off, and I don't know who else. Maybe Joe would maybe flip on David potentially, but I don't think they'll stick together.
Yeah, I may be falling victim to the red herring of the next time on Survivor, which is, almost always misleading. But I think it's going to be hard for David to come back together really securely with Joe, Shaheen, and Kyle after how this went down. And like the title of the episode is literally a rift between all of us, which is something that Joe said. And I feel like that's significant to like indicating to us that this actually did cause a rift. It wasn't just like a temporary disagreement. Like David's going to stick on all of these observations and he's not going to let them go next week.
I actually forget that Shaheen's in the strong 5-6 because I feel like they never show him with them. Yeah. But he's in it, which is interesting. Which is probably
they kind of like, they talk about him like he's kind of not, which is weird.
Yeah.
Yeah, he wasn't even in that. That's such a good point. He was not in that big conversation where they're deciding between Camila and Chrissy.
Which I guess this is skipping forward a little bit, I guess, but like, which I find interesting how Shaheen is the one who keeps catching the votes when Joe and David were not immune this time. They could have, like, why not go for one of them, at least throw a vote on them? But it's always Shaheen. I don't know.
I think this whole thing is very interesting. And I think that like this alliance it's like, I heard way back in the day when they were talking, it was like a comedy show. They were talking about how conspiracy theories are 9 times out of 10 never true because it really involves how many people are involved in the conspiracy. And the more people involved, the less likely it's true, because if there are a lot of people involved, you're not going to be able to keep the everyone together on the same page. So basically it was like talking about how like the moon landing was faked. So many people would need to be involved in that it goes through like thousands of people. If it were really faked, there would be more evidence basically. And so that's kind of how I feel about with alliances. Like the bigger the alliance, the harder it is to keep the outskirts in line and the easier it is for it to fraction. And I think that 6 people, when there are only 9 people in the game, is a very scary place to be. If you think for 1 second you are 5 and 6, if you think for 1 second that you are 5 and 6 in that alliance, why are you sticking with that group? And I think very clearly this episode, it kind of shows, you feel who maybe 5 and 6 are in this, or at least who 1 and 2 are in this alliance. lines. And I really think that like this is going to be the only time I think that they're going to have enough numbers to flip. Frannie, who do you think that they'll be able? Do you think that like obviously Kyle and Camila, do you think they'll be able to get Star and Mitch and Shaheen maybe on the same page?
Yeah, I definitely see that. I think, and we'll get to this in more detail, but I think it's a real shame for Star this week that she lost her vote. Less so, like it clearly didn't make her a target, which I think is so fabulous, but more so because nobody talked to her. Like this would have been a good week to start pulling her in on that plan. I'm nervous that she, you know, if she gets told of a plan to vote out Joe or even vote out David, like she might not feel comfortable enough to go for that. But yeah, I feel like they could pull in almost the whole tribe except for like Mary to get out David if they really wanted to. Now the challenges are very physical this season. The picture of the next, it's literally a bicep curl. Like what? These are some of the most like purely physical challenges that like of Survivor. And they're throwing them into this season, which there's like sort of a question of fairness there, to be totally honest. But and I say that as somebody who won challenges. Like you got to diversify the challenges to give people different opportunities. But yeah, I think that like David or Mary are probably the easiest targets if that group is going to fracture, maybe especially Mary, because, you know, people might not feel as tied to her, but yeah, I feel like this is like maybe their last opportunity to really do that. So I hope they do.
I think you're right.
Yeah.
Daryl commented, David has the best chance of winning the next immunity challenge. I mean, he didn't even flinch on this one. Like it's going to be, it's going to be crazy. And I really hope that we see like maybe a puzzle thrown in or like something where you can like, or what's it? The cage one, what's it called?
Last Gasp.
Yeah.
Because I think that one it shows a different kind of strength because it's like more like a mental fortitude rather than just actually purely just physicaling it out. Because I think they're very physical challenges this season.
I also wonder though, like, I feel like this week's challenge was maybe supposed to be the diversifying challenge moment because you have the partners, there are the stages. I think that in some ways that's designed to shake things up so that the strongest person doesn't always get to the end. And then literally like how this challenge works, it is not geared towards very muscly people because you want your weight to strength ratio to be just right. And I think it's almost like a little unusual that Eva won it as somebody who's like really jacked. I think, you know, in a lot of worlds, that's Mary's challenge. And we'll get to this with the advantage, but my theory is that this was supposed to be a challenge that somebody else really could have won. And, that's part of why there was an advantage included with it. And it's sort of like, you know, bad luck on the part of the people on the bottom that the person who won ended up being part of this majority strong alliance. It's my theory.
I think that's a really good theory. And I mean, while we're talking about the challenge, I've said, I can't remember if this was an episode that we had you on last season, but I've said many times, I don't really love this challenge specifically because I think that like one of the great things about the merge and immunity challenges is that like everyone has an even chance. And I think that like the very first stage was like, you know, digging and like going through a thing and not everyone's going to be great. Like, I think that the poll at the end I would have loved to see Star do that. I would have loved to see Shaheen do that. And I feel
like Mitch would have been really good at that.
Really good at that. And I think you're totally right about like the advantage and how like, oh man, the internet's going crazy that it's rigged. Yeah. Oh, it's rigged. Everything's rigged because it was there, but it was very clearly meant for.
Yes. That's the thing. That's the thing that this is where I was like, man, I'm deleted Twitter again immediately after I downloaded it because everyone was like, well, how was anybody else supposed to get that advantage when there are assigned seats? The point was very clearly that the winner of the challenge was meant to get it. So like, I think that I think it's in a sense right for people to be complaining. It is already a huge advantage to win immunity. I don't think you necessarily need another advantage on top of that, but they're like complaining about the wrong thing a little bit. In my opinion.
Agreed. Yeah. And especially because it said on the thing, it said it's for tomorrow. The only person that's guaranteed to be there tomorrow of the challenge.
That is such a fabulous point. That is such a fabulous point that I did not even think about. Yeah, it's like very early for the winner.
Like maybe they should have included that in the wording of the like for like since you won or something. I don't know.
But I do think that like I think that they maybe wanted to keep it just ambiguous enough that like if Mary walked over there and was like, I'm gonna steal one of your chips, she could have gotten it. You know what I mean? And I think that would have been really interesting.
Totally.
But yeah, I think it would have protected from the internet anger a little bit.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Kara.
I was just gonna say, like, the poll challenge at the end, I know Jeff keeps saying like they make it harder every time, but I don't understand why they're making it harder when less people are participating in it. Why not just keep it the same? If everyone's participating, then I understand making it harder. But there's 4 people.
So here's the tea.
Right?
Here's the tea. I think that, I mean, you definitely have a point, like fewer people, it's just like less likely to go long, but they absolutely, production does not like when challenges go really long. We had one in season 44 go hours longer than they intended it to, and it caused such a ruckus with the scheduling for the rest of the day. And so and I think that their last straw with this was the David versus Goliath challenge with this one, with Alec and Christian. And from that point on, they were just like, we, cannot let this go 5 or 6 hours. And even with only 4 people, if 2 of those people are really determined, then it could go that long. So I think that they just want to like remove that uncertainty is my understanding.
Absolutely. That Christian and Vicky one is so funny also because it was a mistake. Like there was a mistake of the rules, and it's supposed to be you're not supposed to be able to take your back off of it. And like, they didn't say it so they can like contort themselves and like all that stuff. I went like 9 hours.
Yeah, one of many reasons why that's my favorite challenge of all time. Like, I love that scene. So
I love that season. Love that scene, and the fact that Christian won. I love Alec, but the fact that Christian won, it's so good. It is truly such good TV. That was my first season I watched live, and Christian was my favorite. I broke into tears. I was like, uncontrollable. I was so happy. And here's the thing, I kind of I honestly do like these like physical challenges because I think we do have such physical people, and I'm actually really enjoying the challenges this year. But I do think that like having some, throwing some kind of different stuff in the mix and doing some different things would be really, really interesting. And I'm interested to see like, will next episode challenge even go long? Because everyone will see it's this and be like, okay, David, just give it to David. Like, what are we even doing?
Yeah, like at that point, do you really want to sit there maxing out your biceps for an hour if David's just going to outlast you? Yeah, it's a question. I also think like with these challenges, that like there's a slight difference between, because like, the challenges with puzzles or like some sort of maze or like scavenger hunty thing, that's a totally separate category. But within the challenges that feel very physical, I feel like there is a distinction between like, those who win this challenge have performed well in literally a single muscle group versus like a endurance pain management type challenge. I actually feel like this week's is like a pain management. Some of the ones that I had with like holding stuff above your head, it's like pain management. But the like twisting and gripping, that's literally your grip strength. Like Charlie said it on his season. That's all it is. And then this one is just your biceps, in my opinion. And so it's like, there's like a subtle difference. And I hope that this is the last like muscle group challenge we see in this season.
Me too. Absolutely. Now, I do want to talk a little bit about Kyle and Camila. And I recently said that like they have quickly become one of my favorite duos in maybe Survivor history because of the way that they're able to communicate like non-verbally, the way that they I heard through the grapevine that literally that episode where Kyle and Camila, were during the swap, that what we saw were literally the only times they talked. Nothing was cut. That literally that was it. And so the fact that they are really able to get on the same page so quickly is just so amazing. How did you feel? Like, Kara, I'll start with you. How did you feel when you saw Kyle kind of fighting for Camila? Did you were you worried for his game, or were you excited to see kind of that happen?
Definitely worried for his game because I feel like that could be super risky, but I loved it. I love seeing duos like work together like that and like someone really go to bat for someone. So I really enjoyed it. And I'm gonna try not to like talk too long about it, but I feel like this whole episode was like I felt like this was like a Kyle winning episode. I don't know. Like I really got that vibe from this because I felt like showing all of this, it didn't have any impact on where the episode went in the end, but they really focused on showing Kyle go to bat for Camila, and then she didn't even get a vote at tribal council. So I don't know. I feel like this was a really good episode for Kyle. I am kind of concerned that it could come back to hurt him, but I don't think it will. I think it's more good than bad. I think it'll hurt David and Mary more than Kyle.
Interesting. Frannie, what do you think? Do you agree?
Yeah, I loved it so much. Also, a very like social strategy heavy episode. So I was like, "Ooh, we're eating good tonight," because it was literally just like on the strength of Kyle's persuasion and connections that he was able to save Camila. I also love this because we were talking about red herrings before. You know, every Survivor episode has a red herring. Many of them are paper thin. Like it's very clear, you know, who's actually going home, and you believe it for a second, but then you don't. But in this episode, it was really clear to me based on the conversations that like, no, they were actually going for Camila. like the heat in those conversations between Kyle and David was real. And so it really, it felt like a heist. Like, is Kyle going to be able to do it? I love this duo. I think even in the first like 2 episodes where we learn about all the different connections that they have, like the random connections. Something that small that probably took 30 seconds overall of screen time made me feel so much more invested in them as a pair. Cause like I understand the context of why they clicked and then why they've continued working together. And they're both like whip smart. And yeah, I'm like so glad that they're both still here. I was so worried a couple weeks ago, but I want them to just like skyrocket through the rest of this game.
Me too. Absolutely. And I think that, hold on, I saw this here. This was a thought that I had throughout the whole episode. Gemini said, I don't know why Kyle wasn't pushing more that Chrissy was saying Joe's name. And I was saying that, and obviously I'm going to give Kyle the benefit of the doubt that he was, but also, you know, I will say, imagine being out there and hearing your number one's name, your number one that no one really else knows about. I would panic. I mean, I also am a panicker, so I might not be the best example, but I would absolutely panic, and I'd be like, just not okay, guys. I don't like, you know, and it's very easy to say on the couch, just say it's Joe, just say it's because it's Joe, but like it's so much harder to. When you really feel like somebody that you care and love and care about and love and really want to work with is really in danger, it's, I feel like, going to be a lot harder to say, keep your brainwaves straight to kind of figure out what to do and figure out what to say and say the perfect thing all the time. Because that is what I was saying. Like there is you have a scapegoat. The scapegoat's a name you've already said. And the scapegoat also said somebody's name in your group. And so that was like one of the things that I kept saying over and over again, but I get why it didn't happen, but I really wish he would have been able to push that a little bit more. And he probably did. It was probably just cut for time or whatever. Go ahead, Frannie.
Yeah, well, I was just going to say the other thing about this is like, I see that criticism because I think it could have helped him, but I also think that if that is Kyle's only line of defense for why we should not vote Camila, the conversation is going to end really quickly because it's going to be like, Chrissy said Joe's name. Is that a surprise? No. Like, it's not going to change how people feel about Chrissy, how people think that Chrissy wants to play the game. She's been pretty clear about that. And then if everyone really firmly believes that Chrissy doesn't have an idol, then they're just going to be like, okay, well, what can she do about it? And so I think that like the buck kind of stops there if that's his argument. And then I think it's more suspicious if he later is like, whoa, but also Camila's working with us. So in a way, I feel like it kind of helped that wasn't his main argument because he like wanted to not just paint a picture for why Chrissy should go, but also for why Camila should stay. To like give her a little longevity.
I think that's a great point. Gregory also added to that. I feel like Kyle was saying that, but David was saying it doesn't matter because she doesn't have the numbers. And I think that's a very, very good point. Because you're right. If you don't have any other reasons and they don't have the numbers, then what is the point then why does it really matter? I think that's a great point. Do you think their duo is now out in the open? Sorry, Kara, go ahead.
Wait, sorry. Do you want me to answer that or?
No, go ahead. Go ahead with what you were saying. I can ask it later.
I don't even know what I was going to say. I have a different thought, so you go on with your question. I'll bring it up later.
No, I forgot what my question was.
I have a thought that I want to share.
Okay.
The thing that I was thinking this whole time that also sets us up for whatever's going to happen next episode is, as we saw, Kyle's pushing really hard. David completely clocks that Kyle is working with Camila more closely than everyone understands. And that's obviously going to come into play next episode. I think that one of the primary reasons why this works out for Kyle and why I think it's going to continue to work out for him next episode, fingers crossed, is because David was pushing so aggressively. I think that if David had been a really level-headed alliance member there and been like, I really think we should do Camila, and here's why, more like calmly, then I think Kyle's floundering would have looked a lot more suspicious. But I think because he's juxtaposed against David, who looks like he's going nuts all of a sudden, I think it kind of like hides what Kyle was doing a little bit more. And he said this to Joe exactly, like, I don't know what's happening with David. Like, it just seems like he's going crazy. I was just trying to push back against that. And I think that's a really good cover for everything he just did.
Yeah. And I wonder if David was pushing the Camila vote more, like if it was just him and he didn't have Mary also pushing it with him, if that would have maybe had more traction with people. I mean, obviously we haven't seen the whole Mary thing, but I feel like the Mary thing as a viewer is just so random. Like, where did that come from? So maybe there's more when they're out there, but I feel like that would raise some red flags and be like, why are you so with Mary on this, wanting to do this and not with us, type of thing. Yeah. And I had another thought, like, about like going back to the original Siva tribe, like David, Kyle, Camila, and Chrissy were like, they were a 4.
Yes. What happened to that?
Where did that go?
Crazy. Yeah. I was thinking about that too. And it's almost like, why did they show that? Because, and I think that the reason that was shown is to make it really clear that Mitch and I forgot her name, Charity, were working together, just to like set up that he's really on the bottom after Charity went home. But it's weird. It's like almost not referenced how much that alliance blew up. And it's like they really went in different directions.
It really did.
Yeah.
They really did. I have a question about now. Granted, David might be the only one that kind of sees this alliance, Kyle and Camila's alliance, a little bit more clearly. But obviously, we heard for the first time, really, this last episode, that Shaheen and Camila are really close, and that was the reason why Camila's name was out there, and because they needed to cut Shaheen's number 1 because they were getting too close. I think that this is a very interesting thing because 2 things. Number 1, does that not worry Mary and also Joe and Eva? Because if Mary and David are a duo, and Joe and Eva are a duo, obviously Camila's on the outs and not along with this alliance, but somebody within this alliance saying, hey, somebody in our alliance is getting too close to somebody. That's a duo. We got to split that up. Does that not also then turn the like, if I'm Mary, I'd be like, shut up, guy. Like, I'm your Camila. Like, I'm your Camila. Stop saying that. And I get you need to paint a target. I totally understand that, but he was pushing hard for Camila. And so I feel like if say David wins immunity, it could ricochet onto Mary because of how hard David was fighting to get out Camila, because now Shaheen hears, hey, you're really gunning for this one person that I was enjoying working with. And Kyle knows too. And then to add on to that question, does this mean that maybe Kyle can work a little bit more closely with Shaheen, because maybe Kyle and Camila working together will bring Shaheen in, because Shaheen and Camila are working together. So I think that a lot of really interesting dynamics have kind of been brought to the surface because of this potential Camila boot. What do you guys think about that?
Yeah, and we have seen Kyle, Camila, Joe, and Shaheen have that like bonding moment. So go ahead.
And they really like said that they were going to work together too. Like they were like, let's lock this in. Oh gosh, there was a thought that was I feel like a component in why things got really like heated this episode among even like the majority alliance is exactly what you're saying, where there's this like hypocrisy to it, where David is like, Shaheen really wants to bring in Camila, but he's doing it with Mary right next to him, who he has just brought in, and is like, oh, and she's now part of the strong six. Like, it just feels so hypocritical. And so I think that that's like going to inflame some people going forward. But yeah, so for Shaheen and Kyle and Camila, I want to dig into that trio because it's really funky. Because obviously the clearest part of it to me is like, obviously Kyle and Camila are super close. Kyle has been trying to throw Shaheen under the bus. Yeah. Kyle explicitly told Camila, hey, go throw Shaheen under the bus. And she did to David. But yet Shaheen seems to like totally trust the two of them completely and utterly and want to move forward with them. And I don't know. I'm like curious what you guys think, like from Shaheen's perspective, like, should he be realizing this? Or do you think that Kyle and Camila are just doing a really, really good job acting again? Because like, as a viewer, it feels so clear. Even the moment where Shaheen picks Camila for the challenge, it feels so clear that she's like, like, why did you pick me? I feel like that should be waving off alarm bells for Shaheen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's so funny that he's not really catching on to them conspiring against him. Like every chance they have, they're conspiring against him. And it's so funny how he's just not picking up on it.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. And I think there's an interesting thing because this game, obviously the new era Survivor is so fast paced. And one of the things that I think that we don't see, that we see a lot more with like Australian Survivor or old school Survivor when it's a little bit longer, is you'll see people kind of like get over things and move really quickly. One thing that I have been able to kind of learn about Shaheen from, I'm very lucky I was able to meet him. He has a very, very level head from how I talk to him. And so if he is not picking up on that, that stinks. But also if he is, I don't think he's the kind of person to say, that means I can't work with you anymore. I think he's the kind of person who says, I know what's going on, or I can kind of recognize something's happening, but I would rather have that right under my nose than further away, because it's like, keep your enemies close, keep your friends close, but your enemies closer. And I'm not saying that he sees them as enemies, but he is the kind of player who, he kind of reminds me of an Australian Survivor player a little bit. He's not as chaotic, but he is somebody who I do think can be like, think a little bit more rationally and less emotionally. And I think that's kind of why he's okay with working. And again, he might not see all of this. Like, it truly might be he's just like missing it, but he seems to be a pretty emotionally intelligent person and somebody who's able to pick up on cues. And I really think that like, he's the kind of person who might recognize what's going on and be like, I see what's going on. But I kind of like the way you're playing, or I think we have a good vibe or whatever else, and can work with that kind of person.
Yeah, I think that's such an interesting point, especially when comparing like the new era to Australian Survivor or original Survivor, like, because this is something I ran up against in my season as well. I just like personality wise really struggle to, like, I'm not a grudge holder. I feel like I get over stuff really fast, sometimes to my detriment. Like maybe I should hold a couple grudges, but I sometimes you really should. But on season 44, I feel like I did this where, everybody voted against me. Danny played his idol and I stayed. And the next day I literally went to those people and I was like, okay, so it probably makes sense for us to work together, right? Like, I didn't care that they had just voted me, because I was like, based on our positions, we should be working together. And I was like kind of caught off guard by how other people did not behave that way. People were holding on to whatever happened most recently and like moving forward with that information again. And so, yeah, I like that interpretation of what Shaheen's doing, because I think he can read the room and understand everyone's position and see that though Kyle and Camila may have, may lack 100% trust with him, it makes most sense for them to all work together. So therefore he trusts them. Yeah, I like that.
I think your options open.
Exactly. Keep your options open. And I think good at that. And I've been saying that I really think that like Joe's winning because of the edit, but I also like, I could really see one of three people winning right now. I could see Shaheen winning, I could see Joe winning, and I could see Kyle winning. I really think that those three people are getting very interesting edits and are playing really interesting games in their own right. And I worry that like Camila, I love Camila, and I think she's playing an incredible game, and I would love for Camila to win. I don't see her target's too big right now. And I just am worried about that. And then I will also say that I think that like we're also seeing a very interesting kind of edit, also like how Star is playing. And I want to talk about Star a little bit because we saw Star lose her vote. I hate the lost votes, especially this late in the game. But I do think that Star was in a very interesting position today because she did see, you said this earlier, Frannie, she did feel safe. She did say that she was able to sit back and watch people run around and all that stuff, and she knew it wasn't her. Do you think that she'll be able to use this to her advantage, like this knowledge of who went and talked and who didn't? And do you think we'll be able to see that play out? What do you think about that, Frannie? I'll start with you.
Yeah, I love that idea because I do think that when you are, for whatever reason, either you have immunity or you're Star and nobody's coming and talking to you, like when you are not feeling personally really involved in the vote, it does allow you to step back and have some perspective. So hopefully she'll come to next week with that perspective and it'll help her. But yeah, I just like, I feel like we're not acknowledging on the show how good of a job Star has done with changing her position. She was literally narratively for like the first 4 episodes on the absolute bottom of her tribe, and even on the swap tribe, absolute bottom. And then largely by giving Eva the idol was able to like totally change her standing. And even though she's not a part of this strong 5 alliance that is happening, I feel like Joe and Eva are keeping her in the loop and we're just not seeing it. And I also feel like if Joe and Eva decide that they want to go against this alliance, Star is going to be somebody that they're going to pull in. And the, you know, Mitches of the world, the, you know, Camilla's, people who feel like they're on the bottom are also going to pull Star in. And so I don't know like how much she doesn't have a lot of driving power right now, it feels like, but I think she's going to be included in like most plans, which is great for her.
Agreed.
Yeah, I agree. I was thinking, like, I definitely want to see more Star. I was thinking about the the little challenge where someone loses their vote, and I understand why they were trying to get Star to be that person, but I really feel like it would have been beneficial to have Shaheen be that person that lost their vote, and then rallied Star, Mitch, Camila, Kyle, Chrissy to make that move against the other people. I feel like that would have been such a big opportunity to have done that and then pull Star in. I don't know. I was just thinking about that, and I feel like that would have been a good opportunity for something.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting that like Camila wasn't thinking about that and Mitch wasn't thinking about that. Yeah, weird.
I think that's a very interesting point also. And the question is do you think they don't have really a lot of time to talk about it ahead of time, right? They see what's going to happen and then they just start doing it. It seems. Do you think Camila would have been able to explain to Shaheen after he had been like the potential vote twice now that he loses the vote? Because I feel like in that moment, while I think it's a great idea, if I'm somebody who's had the votes on me once or twice at least, in a landslide on somebody else and one on me, I think I would be like, okay, well now it's me because I now don't have a voice. But I do think Camilla's the kind of person to be able to explain like, hey, we're trying to use Star as a number. You are my number one. Like you're in an alliance. I think that this is the time we can actually make some moves, but it's just, is he going to be open to that explanation?
Especially like you said, after the fact. I think it's like maybe beforehand, if it was a world where they could talk, like I could see that happening, but afterwards it's like, no. I also genuinely feel like this may have been largely influenced by the fact that, like your biggest enemy in this game is the person like right before you or right after you. And I think that Camila of this group is the biggest like gamer, the best with like this kind of like numbery, finicky stuff. And I think it's like bad luck a little bit that Star was right after her. So Camila really had the ability to like target her directly. And then especially after Star gets that first ball, then it's like, you just want it to be over as fast as possible. And that is a way bigger priority than getting it on a particular person. Cause it's like the idea of it being you is just so scary.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And this has nothing to do with the episode. I just want to say Star is one of the most genuine, amazing human beings I have ever had the pleasure to talk to. I don't think that is, I think they're showing it a little bit on the show, but I cannot stress enough how much more they need to show about this woman's personality, about this woman's just who she is. I cannot stress enough. I really don't think I've met a better person like on the planet, just with a kinder heart and a kinder soul. Like she's incredible. And I don't, and again, it sucks. Like her edit is not great because we're not seeing a lot of her, but I think what we are seeing of her is just, really like she's a genuinely good person. And that makes me very happy. And I really hope that we're going to be able to see her make some moves because she's also a gamer. Like just because if you're a gamer, that doesn't mean you're not a good person, right? You can be both. And I think that she has game in her. And I just don't think that she's been given the opportunity or she hasn't like found that niche where she can do it. But I do think that, we've seen her work with Shaheen, or at least Shaheen want to work with her.
She was working with Thomas and Bianca. I mean, they were gonna do something big, and then it's bad luck that they both went home.
So I think that she has some tricks up her sleeve, and I really hope we see them because she deserves the world, basically.
Completely agree.
She's fat. Every moment we've seen, though there are a few, have been like perfect gems.
Exactly. And somebody commented, and I do kind of agree with this if we're talking about edit a little bit. Daryl said, I think that Star is getting a 0 vote finalist edit because of her confessional talking about being in the top 3. And I can't remember if this was this episode or last episode where she was like, I don't want to be on the jury. That's not my goal. My goal is to win. And I think that is first of all, very good outlook to have. Obviously, when you're playing Survivor, you just want to make it to the next day, and you want to get to the jury. But I love that she said that's not what I'm here for, and it really kind of like pushes her narrative further a little bit. And I would love for her to be on the show until the very end, and hear her perspective and hear her fight for that $1 million. I would love for that to happen.
Yeah, I just want to also throw out there, if anything, last season gave me so much hope that Edgic is totally bonkers because Genevieve was missing from like 4 episodes, and then she became like such a huge character last season. And so, there is still room for Star to shine, in my opinion.
Yes,
totally. There's so much game left to still be played. So much can happen.
So much game left to still be played. And I think we're in for like some very, very exciting, I don't know. This is a really good cast, and I think that they are willing to make the moves. And I think in any other season, not any other season, but I think sometimes 6 people together they will write it out. I don't see that that's going to happen. And I will say, David had a really good point, or somebody who might be related to David had a very good point at the Ron Clark show.
Distant cousin.
Great save. This person said that, what is interesting television does not necessarily make it good gameplay, which is a great point. And the big question is, would you rather be on Cagayan, or would you rather be Kim Spradlin on One World? And I would personally rather be Kim Spradlin on One World. Because
people have different priorities, though. There are a lot of people who go on reality TV because they want to be a star on reality TV, and that's real.
That's very real. So, I do think it's a very good point. Like, boring gameplay is good gameplay sometimes.
Yeah. Oftentimes.
Most of the time.
Yeah. It's interesting. Boring gameplay often is really good gameplay. It is highly disincentivized by production. I remember before 44, Jeff gave us like a little hype up speech where he said, this is before we set foot on the beach. Like we just arrived, and he was like, I just want to say, like, play big, like don't leave anything on the table. Like, I know everyone's playing for a second chance, and like you can be asked back on the show even if you get voted out early. It's just about how bold you are and whatever. And I was thinking there, and I was like, everyone's looking for a second chance. Like, I was really hoping to make this chance be really like, so it's interesting because, and it totally makes sense from Jeff's perspective of all of production, because they are making a TV show. They want it to be interesting for TV. They don't give a crap if any of us individually win. But that like misalignment between good TV and good gameplay is like, it's interesting priorities.
it was really funny at the premiere, I was invited to go to the like first episode premiere that CBS did, and when Stephanie was voted out in that episode, I've said this multiple episodes. I just think it's a very funny episode. Kara's heard this 9 times.
Kara's like, stop telling this.
Shut up. But in the episode, Stephanie says, I want to sit on my hands because I know that I can be overbearing sometimes. And then at the talk back afterwards, Jeff literally said, this is crazy. Jeff literally said, like in the middle of a question, somebody asked a question. He goes, we don't want players who just want to sit on their hands and blah, 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 blah. And I went, okay, Stephanie catching strays.
Yeah.
Strays. But it's very
crazy.
clear that he doesn't want players who are gonna, but that's good gameplay. Like that is good gameplay. You don't want to come out guns blazing. Episode 1, 9 times out of 10. This was just the one time that was a bad move.
Yeah, that's crazy. Also, like this is such old news by now, but I just want to say, like publicly, I haven't had a chance to. Boy, was I flabbergasted when Stephanie got voted out. I was like, she was literally my winner pick, and again, no spoilers about the season. And when she went home, I was like, something must be wrong. Like I'm misunderstanding what's happening.
No, that was actually crazy. I was absolutely 100% shocked. And when we saw, and Ryan and I love to, when we go to live events, we love to like analyze what the players who are on the season are wearing. Cause a lot of times the players who are going home will wear like a really nice outfit because they know that like it's going to be them. And Stephanie walked out in a full green sequin, like jumpsuit.
You're like,
and Ryan goes, "I'm so sorry. I think it's Stephanie." No, there's no way. She's winning the season. That's why she looks like that.
Yeah. Wait, okay, Ryan's outfit analysis. I love that. And that's real. People really do dress up. And it's the like culture of when people do watch parties and stuff. Mm-hmm. Like Camila lives in the Bay Area, and she, to my knowledge, the first like big watch party she did, and maybe only one so far, was the episode where she and Kyle pulled off this really big move. And I was like, when she invited me to this, I was like, she's going home. She's screwed. And then they pulled off this huge thing, and I was like, oh wow, I'm like pleasantly surprised. How great. So yeah, there's a lot to pick apart there.
It's so funny. I love analyzing the show. We already talked about it, but I do also love analyzing like the offline, what's going on, what's happening. And it's not so deep as like who's following whom, or I guess they're not allowed to, but like back in the day, I remember very vividly on 30, when somebody on Reddit said that somebody on 37's sister who visited them as the loved one's visit was following this person's aunt. And so on episode 1, they were like, well, they're going to get to family visits. And I'm like, that's not what I care about.
That's intense.
Okay.
Yeah.
What I care about is like the minutia of the body language and the
you go to a party and you're like, who's talking to who looks like they do not want to be in the same room as each other, even though it doesn't align with what we've seen on the show so far.
I know.
It's very telling.
It's so telling.
Which is probably why current players should not be going to those parties.
Yeah, and
like CBS, they definitely like tell you don't do that, but of course you're going to do that because this is the most exciting thing that's ever happened to you. But this is the reason why they don't want you to.
To be clear, I've never seen a player at any live party ever. They're never.
Yeah, no, me neither.
Never.
I never go to one when my season.
To be clear, never once, never have, never will.
Nope.
I really like, I think this is showing how much I'm really enjoying this season, because I think that there are so many lanes that we can like talk about. One thing we haven't talked about that I do really want to talk about was that tribal council.
Oh yeah.
Because that was heated, very real. That felt very raw and very true. And I know that we haven't actually talked about Chrissy a ton this episode, because there wasn't a lot. While it was her boot episode, it didn't really feel like it was her choice. I mean, it's never your choice to go home, but it wasn't like there wasn't much for that she was like going to be fighting for, because what we saw was Kyle fighting for Camila. But we did see in that tribal council kind of her burying herself a little bit for the second time in a row. Do you think that that's when that decision was finalized? Do you think that that decision was finalized prior to tribal council and we shouldn't see it? What do you think? Or do you think it was like a live tribe where people were like, no, we got to get her out?
I personally think that it was decided prior based on the fact that there was not whispering that we saw. I think if the vote breakdown had been a little more mixed, then I would maybe buy that it was a tribal decision where like some people flipped. But given that it was unanimous on Chrissy, I'm like, they had to have come in with that. And then Mary made a comment during tribal about boom, things changing at the last minute, which kind of tipped me off like, okay, I think it is going to be Chrissy. Because she was so firm that it was going to be Camila. But yeah, I really empathize with Chrissy in this tribal council and the previous one, because tribal, first of all, is so stressful, like Jeff's asking you questions and you're like, I really was like, Jeff's my teacher and I want to get an A in this class, so I'm going to give him the best answer I can, which is, tells a lot about me. But I think that like, that's your opportunity to like really speak to Jeff about the state of the game. And I think that she's really allowing this emotion and all these feelings about how the game is going to bubble out in a way that's like really detrimental. I actually think that her name, I feel like if she hadn't started this discussion at the last tribal council, she maybe would have stayed a couple more votes. And I think this is so hard as a player, but like when you feel really strongly about something, Chrissy should have saved that emotion for her confessionals and for private conversations with people who are on the bottom. Like, and I so get it. And I also opened my mouth and stuck my foot into it during tribal councils on my season, but it's like, and at the very top of the episode, she comes back and she's like, none of that I said was real. You can't unring the bell. There's no way. So it's like, wow, she really did kind of like dig her own grave a little bit. But I empathize with it. You want to say it. You don't want to appear complicit in this like structure that you feel like is not fair.
Yeah. She was making points just at the wrong time. But like she wasn't wrong. David wasn't really, like, they were both making points. Just Chrissy didn't have any traction, really. And she was saying it at the wrong time.
I mean, she's telling every single word she said, I went correct. Yes, agree. Thank you. And then that whole time I was like, but those are inside thoughts. Those are inside thoughts that you think to yourself. But again, hitting the nail on the head every time. This woman gets a 100% on the test, but still failed the class, unfortunately. Like it was really, truly, it's so hard to watch somebody be like, you're right. Stop talking.
Yeah, you're right. And shut up about it. Don't say another word.
Please. But, and I think the thing like that's interesting is I 100% agree with her that like, there's no such thing as an honest game of Survivor, because you're going to have to lie to somebody, and you're choosing who you are being honest with. And I've talked about this a couple of times, but I think about like, what's his name? Mike Turner from 42, where he gets to final tribal council and said, hey, I played an honest game. I played this huge honest game. And then everyone's like, no, you lied this time. You lied this time. You lied this time. Or like Dawn, right? Dawn,
yes,
second chances, not second chances, fans versus favorites too, where she's like, I played this honest game, and Brenda went like, say no, absolutely
take your teeth out, girl.
And so it's just like, obviously, it's who you. Technically, Kyle and Camila are playing a very honest game to each other, so they could go and say, hey, I was honest to the one person that I said I was going to be honest to. But it's just like, how do you just have to have the right jury to make that argument. And if the jury is receptive, which it sounds like it might be, if Joe's sitting there at the end saying, I said I was going to do the things that I said I was going to do to the people that whatever, they might be receptive and they might say, yes, I'm going to vote for you. But it's just a very interesting point in this game where it's like, it's what did you said it earlier, Frannie? It's like hypocritical a little bit. It's like, that's a harsh word, but exactly what this is like, you can't really 100% be honest. But then also it's the jury management of it all. And I think especially because Chrissy's second juror, she now definitely is like, well, David is bad jury management. And if that's in her head, she's going to go to the jury telling everybody, David, bad jury management. He's not going to get my vote.
Yeah, this is one of the biggest things that I feel like I learned after being on Survivor is the first couple people on the jury, I'd say like the first 2, maybe 3, completely set the tone. And I think that Cedric alone would have been I think he would have, though he made some perhaps irrational decisions. I don't know. Cedric really confuses me, but I think he would have approached it, very calmly. And I want to figure out who wins, treat it like a job, which it is to decide. Chrissy, I think she's got an opinion, and every single person that walks through that door, she's going to be like pushing her agenda a little bit. And that makes such a huge difference. Like, like who people like and who they don't like. We spend a week and a half together before we go vote. And when you talk about the game for like 4 hours at breakfast every day, it really influences how you feel about everyone.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's very real.
Yeah.
I forget where I heard this. It might have even been you, Tegwith, who said this, or I literally cannot remember who said this or where I heard it, but it was someone saying that like the people that would vote for David are the people that he wants to bring with him to the end. So then there'll be no one on the jury who, like, I guess, like respects his game or wants to vote for him. And I thought that was a really interesting point. I can't remember who said it. Where I heard it.
I'll take the credit, but that wasn't me. But yeah, 100%.
Right.
You have to have a cheerleader on, and I think this is one of the reasons why Kenzie won, because she had a big cheerleader who she did not have a hand in voting out. She didn't vote out Tiffany, and I think that was one of the reasons why she won. And we can go into the semantics of the individual votes, but like having somebody at Ponderosa being like, this person did all this and is able to back up why that happened, why she did that. And yep, that's actually what happened. I think is huge.
Oh yeah.
And we know so much of the talk happens before the actual final tribal council. So people are going to be talking and comparing notes and all of that stuff. And I think that's a great point. If David wants to sit next to two people that he's worked with for a long time, that's two people who probably aren't going to vote for him. And what are Star, Kyle, Camila, all of these people, who are they going to vote for? It's probably not going to be him.
Yeah, well, and if the final three is three people from the strong alliance and they're all rubbing elbows saying, wow, look at us, we got to the end, the jury's going to hate that. They're going to be like, F you, I don't want to give any of you $1 million. So yeah, you got to, for David, it's like, I totally see why he wants to stick with that alliance. I think from his perspective, it makes a ton of sense. And I see why he gets upset in this moment with Chrissy, but it's like, yeah, exactly like you just said, Kara. He thinks he's setting himself up for success, but not actually to win, just to get to the end, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's such a complicated game, but so fun. That's why it's so good. It's like you could, Jeff said it in a thing he just recently did where it's just like Survivor would be good in any instance, like the same cast twice, which fun fact, I thought they were going to do that for 42. I thought 42 was going to be 41, just the exact same cast.
Really?
Yeah,
That's interesting. I really think they should do that at some point. I think 41 would be a really funny group to do.
The reason why I thought it, because I really did like the cast a lot, but I thought it was because of the quarantine rules. And I thought they were they didn't have to re-quarantine anybody. And so they could just basically start over again and just start with different tribes. And I thought that was going to be the twist for 42. And I didn't really believe it. Like it was kind of a conspiracy, more like a conspiracy theory, but I was like, wouldn't that be fun?
I love that. I think if enough people get COVID on 42, they would run it back. Right? You know what I mean? They would just go for it. I really want them to do that at some point. Like this is something we talked a lot about on 44 is like, if you ran the same cast 100 times, who wins the most times? I think it's like a really interesting question. And sometimes that's a really good way to think about who's going to win the game. And spoiler alert, my winner pick is Kyle. And I feel like he wins a good number of times in this group. So hopefully he wins this time too.
Back to, this was a thought I had about Kyle and like this episode and the Chrissy vote out and everything. Like, I feel like they definitely had footage of Chrissy they could have showed for this episode and like showed maybe the build up or whatever. But like, I guess what was the point in showing that when Chrissy was going? And they used it to build up someone else's storyline versus, I guess, showing something obvious that was going to happen, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it is kind of crazy, though, like, when you think about it, how they do show her talking with Kyle, but then after the Journey people come back, you do not see Chrissy again, you do not see Mitch, you do not see Star, and you only see Camila talking to Kyle and no one else. And honestly, like that narratively is the only like asterisk I have where it makes me nervous about this strong 6 or strong 5 or whatever actually breaking up, because it's like we're not getting, like, we as an audience are not being given enough about the like underdogs to really get invested in them. I'm personally invested, but I think like the general audience, and so it makes me afraid that they're just going to be knocked off.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. That also brought up a thought that I wanted to talk about, because it was an idea that Mitch had that I actually think he had a very good idea. It was right in the beginning of the episode when he was going to bring back the old Siva group together. And I really liked hearing this from Mitch, because he's somebody, just like you said, I feel like we're not getting a ton of, like, we're not hearing his plans. We're not hearing a lot of what he's, thinking and planning on doing. But I did like seeing this moment, because clearly he was willing to work with Chrissy. And he wanted to bring back David. He wanted to bring in Camila. Like, he wanted to bring in the original group. And I did like hearing this from Mitch, because he knew he was on the bottom. He knew he wasn't in this alliance. So that means that they can clearly see where this alliance is and what's happening in this alliance. And I think that I just liked seeing him trying to get a different path for himself, because I do think that, like, he's not getting the best edit in the world, but I think seeing this right there shows that he still has some inroads. Camila was thinking about it. Camila said, hey, Mitch cannot lose his vote. He cannot lose his vote because I'm working with him. And so I do think that was a very good thought that he had. And I like that Camila's keeping this door open with Mitch to maybe explore some kind of partnership in the future. And that was a moment that I was like, I'm really happy they're showing that he's trying something.
Totally agree. I also
story, but
yeah, I also think that David seems a little like closed-minded right now about who he wants to work with. But I think it's good for Mitch, even if he feels like he's totally locked off from that alliance, to like continue trying, because it shows David, Mitch still wants to work with you. Like he still wants an opportunity. So as they're picking people off, maybe David won't want to go for Mitch as early, because he's like, oh, well, Mitch still maybe wants to work with me. I'll keep him around for a little bit longer. And then the longer you're in, the greater the chance that you can, pull something off. So yeah, I like that too.
Yeah. For not one of the best episodes of the season, I do think that a lot was exposed and a lot was learned. Yeah. We learned a lot about what was going on, and I don't know, it gets me really excited for the coming episodes. And I know that like a lot of fans are down on it, and I was like, but we got to have that background episode to really kind of prop up what's about to happen. And I feel like we've got some big things about to happen.
Yeah, that's what this episode felt like. It was building up something, and I don't really have any context for mentioning this, but I just been thinking about it. It was like Shaheen and I guess we kind of mentioned it. Shaheen and his edit. I feel like they show such random, like unnecessary things from him, like him mentioning painting the flag. Like that was so unnecessary in the grand scheme of the episode. Or like him talking about the Wi-Fi thing where they edited his buff color. Like that was so unnecessary to even edit in.
Wait, were they what? They edited his buff color?
Yeah, they changed.
This is what I missed when I'm not on Twitter. Because wait.
After they
because it was after the swap.
After they swap, yeah. So some internet sleuth found that in one of his confessionals, they edited his buff to be purple. They edited it to be purple, but it had the half moons on it that Vula has, so they couldn't edit the thing, but they edited the color. And so somebody's like, well, I think there's going to be a swap, at least just Shaheen is going to be swapped, and he'll be swapped onto Vula.
Damn, it's so funny to me, just as a side note, how CBS does that, as if we're not all freaks who are gonna are gonna figure that out. They're like, somebody in the back room is like, hey, good enough, like get the now. This is actually our lives. Yeah. Like, of course we're gonna, and I say that as somebody who's
playing with
this, but yeah, who do you think you're playing? Come on now. That's so fun.
Real.
I feel like that's such a random thing to like include in, and to go through that whole thing to edit the buff. Like, what was the point of that for something that wasn't even? It was just like about them putting like the outlet or the Wi-Fi in the tree or whatever. Like, I don't know. So that makes me.
They want him to be really fun. His like last week is like, wow, my God, now it's
yeah.
They want us to like Shaheen.
Yeah,
it works. Kind of. It's
working, yeah.
Work done. Yeah.
Mission accomplished.
Yeah.
Good job, editors.
Yeah.
Very real. Very real.
So
Yeah.
I think this episode was very fun, and I think that
Yeah.
I think we see roads for many winners from here. I think that they've done a good job at like if you ask me at any one moment, I'm certain it's either going to be Joe, Shaheen, or Kyle. I'm 100% certain. If you ask me in 5 minutes, I'm going to be 100% certain it's Shaheen. Ask me in 5 minutes, 100% certain it's Kyle.
Yeah.
Possible, but it is for me.
Yeah, in my mind.
Before we get to we had some questions that were sent in. So before we get to that, is there anything that y'all wanted to talk about that we didn't talk about quite yet?
Let me go through my notes.
Literally. I guess like one thing that I liked was that Eva wants to keep this advantage to herself. I really was happy that she said that. I liked that. Hopefully she sticks with that.
Yeah, I hope so too. Another thing that I had starred to bring up is we never really got to see what New Vula said about the tribal where Thomas went home. How they painted that, because I wonder if that's influencing David's like big concern about Camila. Because if that was really painted as like, oh, Camila pulled off this big move or something, then I can see why David has this like urgency around getting her out. But it's weird, it like never really got discussed, and that was like a huge move, like 3 against 2. Why on earth did Thomas go home? And it's just like we never talked about it again. So that's something I'm like wondering about.
And probably also why I bet you like when he sees Kyle fighting for Camila, in the back of his head he's like, oh, interesting. Okay.
And they did this once before.
They've done this before. Okay, I now see a pattern here. Shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me kind of a vibe. I think that's a very good point. And you're right, it was not really addressed at all. Even though it's one of my favorite pre-merge moves ever. Yeah,
that was an insane move. It was like crazy. I also heard about that through the grapevine, and I already said I met Camila. I was asking Camila about that, and I was like, how long did it take you to come up with that? Because it's like, any way you twist it, it's a foolproof plan. Like it's really, really good. And a couple of people, we were at her party and we're like, how long did that take you? And she was like, instantly. I was like, okay, so that would have taken me 5 business days to come up with.
That's a girl who loves Coach, who loves Q, and who loves Philip.
Yeah, that's our girl. She's crushing it.
For those who don't know, she said that her 3 favorite players that she wants to see back. Well, her number 1 player she wants to see back is Coach, but her 3 favorite players in Survivor history are Coach, Philip Shepard, and Q, which is so unhinged and amazing, and it's one of the reasons why I love her.
Yeah, it's good. And she's really crushing this. I think she's like putting on a meek exterior. And even during the challenge this week, she, made a point to bring up like, I thought nobody would pick me. I think that's really calculated. Like we've seen the way that she's really, she's meticulous about what she says and how she says it and to whom. And I think this is like a facade that she's putting up mostly. I'm sure it's grounded in some reality about how she feels, but yeah, and I think that the rest of the tribe is not getting this like chaos gamebot energy from her, and that's going to be really helpful for her moving forward. She's literally amazing. I love her. Yeah.
But also for that Thomas vote, the only people that would really talk about it would be Joe or
Shaheen.
Yeah, and it seems like they left that tribe on good terms with them. So I'm sure they probably weren't going around being like, oh, they pulled off this big thing.
But that's why I think it's in David's head, because he wasn't there. He didn't see it firsthand. So
Makes
David
sense.
is saying, David is like, okay, what's going on?
What
like they're
happened?
not that big of a deal, but his wheels are turning because he didn't see it firsthand. You have the stories pushed together and you're like, that doesn't make sense.
Yeah, well, I also think there had to have been a story about it, because that's like one of the first things that happened for us when we merged is like you ask, okay, what happened when this person went home? What was this tribal like? Even the ones that feel straightforward, like it's just you're talking to new people and you want to know. So it's like, what could they have possibly said about it? Even if they were, like you said, Kara, like trying to cover for each other because they are on good terms. I don't know. It's just interesting. I sort of wish we'd seen that.
I know.
Yeah.
So much good stuff this season. So much that is like left on the cutting room floor, I feel like.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we've got a lot of questions that we are going to get to. So right after this ad, we'll get into Survivor Social Hour. So we'll see you in just a second.
Hi, Survivor Now podcast listeners. I am Katie from KT Designs, better known as Katie Tedesco Art on both Instagram and Etsy. I have been designing and selling Survivor products for over 7 years at my Etsy shop, including replicas like hidden immunity idols and Survivor trading cards with all of the players' stats on the back. I am so grateful for Survivor Now for giving me this shout out and helping me reach even more super fans. I love listening to their podcast. So if you are looking for some really unique reality TV products for yourself or to give a super fan in your life, come check out my Etsy shop at www.etsy.com/shop/KatieTedescoArt.com.
I'm so good with this. I am the best podcaster there ever has been.
Yeah, that was so good.
A couple of episodes ago, I started the episode with my face before the intro started, and I went,
Oh no.
if there's one thing about me, I do not play it cool. Okay.
We know you're a panicker. You don't play it cool. This is everything you need to know about tech.
I'm basically like a meerkat, when they look up, but then they freak out afterwards. That's kind of what I am.
Could you take a meerkat in a fight, though?
I think I could.
There we go. We got it on the board.
Hey, big meerkat energy over here. Okay, we have this first question sent from Rachel Grothix. Would Frannie and Matt do a blood versus water type season together? Is this too much of a dream?
Oh, Rachel Grothix, dream big. That's a fabulous dream. No, we would totally. I think it's actually it would be really hard though, because if they did another blood versus water, I think it'd be too much of an advantage that we've both played Survivor. So it's like a hard sell. Matt really wants to go on The Amazing Race, and I'm not sure how well we'd do, but I think it would be really fun. And so, we might pursue that somewhere down the line. We, Derek and Claire from Big Brother and The Amazing Race live in San Francisco. So we can get all the insider tips and tricks from them if we
Absolutely.
want.
And you see that they're doing a Big Brother Amazing Race. Do you think they would ever do like a Survivor Amazing Race? And I think you guys would be a perfect pair.
Mm-hmm.
I hope so badly. Like, I really want this Big Brother Amazing Race to go really, really well for them to be like, oh, how cute. Yeah. End of the story. We want to go on The Amazing Race. So we'll see if that happens.
Amazing.
This is so good.
I am like very tentatively on The Amazing Race train to like watch it. I think 90 minutes is a little long for me for The Amazing Race.
Yeah. Let me be clear. I've never seen it. So just to be crystal clear, I've never seen a single episode of The Amazing Race. But I would do a deep dive if I were to go on for sure.
It's I talked to Bryce Isaiah at the RHAP in Boston, and I basically was like, I know you love The Amazing Race. 90 minutes of The Amazing Race is so hard for me. And he basically was like, just try it. I swear to God, just try it. It's good. And I was like, Bryce, you tell me to do something, I'll do it. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's how it works. When Bryce says it, you got to do it. I didn't know that Bryce loved The Amazing Race. That's interesting.
Yeah, he does an Amazing Race podcast with Brooke, I think is her name, who won The Amazing Race. And he said he wasn't an Amazing Race fan until he just started doing the podcast with her. And that he's like now super into it. So
side note, new plan. Maybe Bruce and I should do The Amazing Race.
Bruce
and I actually are a fabulous team. We lived near each other when I was in Boston and we hung out a lot. So we got good communication. I think we'd really crush it.
Kara, do you think you could do The Amazing Race?
I think the hardest thing would be having to carry everything. And I think for that, I don't know.
No, people have asked if Ryan and I could do The Amazing Race, and the answer is unequivocally no. And it's because it's because I am like the weakest link, because I'm literally horrible at directions. Like, I have Google Maps in front of me and it says, like, go this way, and we'll walk like in New York City, a grid, 3 blocks. I have no sense of direction. I go, that's the wrong way. And it's like, at this point, why is Ryan listening to me? Like, if I say go away,
Yeah.
he should just know that we need to walk the other way. So
it's his fault. He should know by now.
It's his fault. Thank you so much. So I couldn't be the direction person. And I also hate driving. I don't enjoy driving. I'm very stressed when I drive. And so I couldn't be the driving person. So what would I be doing? Am I the camera person? I'm on the Amazing Race being the camera.
You're just holding the bags.
Yeah.
That's my skill. So I absolutely could not. But I would die if you two were on the Amazing Race. I would love that.
That'd be so good.
Okay. Caitlin Chost asks, is Frannie pro or anti-milk?
Yeah. So perhaps unpopular opinion, I am pro milk. I am a milk
extra, read all about it.
Extra, read all about it. Yeah. I am pro milk. I'm from Minnesota. Very we're grain belty. We're Midwestern. We love our milk. And I grew up on it. I don't often drink like a glass of milk, but I have milk in my coffee every single day. Matt and I will make protein shakes with milk. And if a glass is put in front of me, I'll drink it, and I think it's refreshing. And I'm standing by that. It's the truth.
I respect that you know yourself well enough to stand by.
You're like, that sounds disgusting, but okay. I can't be disrespectful toward my podcast guests.
Oh, Daryl says pro milk baby. Let's go 4 nipples power. Okay, but
I only have 2 to be clear. 2 nipple girly over here.
Kara, are you pro milk?
I like chocolate milk. I'll drink chocolate milk. I haven't had a glass of just like regular milk in years, but I probably would drink it if it was there.
Interesting.
So I'm team milk.
So chocolate milk, am outnumbered.
I had, just to say, you are outnumbered, so better get a glass of milk. I had chocolate milk for the first time last year, like as an adult person. Never had it as a child. And I think it is a little crazy that David drinks like a gallon of chocolate milk every day. That's a little, I'm like, oh, okay.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
Maddie says, this is my first impression of you all, and I am not disappointed.
No, Maddie, don't hold me to my milk impressions.
No, I use half and half in my tea. And but I like milk products. So love Greek yogurt, love sour cream, love ice cream. I'm an ice cream girl. I eat ice cream for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, right? Love the byproducts of milk. I was not allowed to have milk as a kid, not because I'm lactose intolerant. My mom's and my allergists growing up said milk is bad for kids. Don't give kids milk. And my mom said, he is one of the smartest men I've ever met in my life. So my mom said, okay, fine. And I literally was not allowed to have milk as a kid.
Because he thought it would give you allergies?
No, so I already had allergies, but he said like it is not good for the development of like your, I don't remember what he said, but it was like not good for like a kid's development. I think like has to do with like their immune growth. It's actually not.
Well, look how Kara and I turned out. So count your lucky stars.
Yeah, I was drinking. I had a glass of milk every night when I was like a little kid. I was always drinking milk.
There was my 14th birthday. Because I never got milk, I was like allowed to have any drink, and most people were like, "I'll have soda," and I had a glass of milk. That was like what I wanted because it was just like that was me rebelling, and I didn't enjoy it. I hated it.
Well, yeah, if you're not like trained to love milk, then I understand if you're an adult person and you drink milk for the first time, you're like, I get it.
But I get your side. It's cold. It's I get it.
Yeah, and I'm not like
it's cold.
It's like it's liquid. I think it's like, I don't know. It's a good like cold water. I'm like a room temp water person, or like slightly chilled. Like I don't like cold water. I hate ice. So I feel like milk is like the cold beverage that I can tolerate a little bit better.
Oh, okay.
Very interesting. I think if I was on Survivor, the thing I would crave the most is ice.
Whoa.
I love ice. I know it's bad for my teeth. I love chewing ice.
You're a chewer.
I really love, we have an ice machine, and that's a non-negotiable. Like, we bought it. That's a non-negotiable in my house.
The pebble ice.
I have like an issue. I must have like, what is it? Like I have like a salt issue or something when they said iron.
Anemic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm okay with it. I love ice. Like,
wow. That's
Okay.
an interesting thing to crave because I don't think many of I feel like you don't get ice much on Survivor.
No, when I see like an iced tea or something, I'm like,
oh, true.
Like, because like there are some drinks that they still have ice in there, and I'm like, that must be great. But
yeah,
that's what
so funny. Jeff is like offering you up the food reward, and you're like, "Is there ice? Just tell me. Just tell me now."
Where's the ice bucket?
Yeah, I need to know.
Very real. Okay, we have this question sent in from Drew JB73. As a challenge beast during 44, would you have joined the Strong Five if you played in 48?
Yeah, that's such a funny question because a lot of the discourse around like challenges and strength, I'm like, oh yeah, I guess I did do that. I feel like it's not my vibe though. I don't know. I mean, I think I may have been folded in. Like, I think that I think if I was on that season, if I'm winning challenges, I probably would have been approached by the Strong Five, right? And I think it may have helped me stay longer on my season if people had wanted to do that. But I have some of the same qualms about the Strong Five that others have. So I don't know that I would have been like gung ho about that alliance.
Serene Brasker also asks, what are her thoughts on the Strong Six? Kind of follow up to that question.
Yeah, I mean, I'll kind of echo what I said earlier, which is David bringing in Mary to make this Strong Six feels really hypocritical when he is so opposed to anybody else having a pair that they bring in. And I also feel like he didn't really like ask anyone if he could bring in Mary. He was just kind of like, Mary's in now. And so I think that alliance is not long for this world. Yeah, I see why those people are bonding together. Again, like on Survivor, as in life, you know, we often gravitate towards people that are similar to us. And you want to find any way to connect, especially on Survivor. Like any connection point is a seed of an alliance. But yeah, I don't know. It feels bad. It doesn't feel good to be like, we're strong and we're going to crush you. So for that reason, I'm like, I'm a little iffy on it.
Mm-hmm.
I get that. And I want to echo that a little bit because I think a lot of people online are saying like, what's the difference between like a Strong Five alliance or an all women's alliance? Like if a bunch of strong dudes get together, why is that like frowned upon, but a women's alliance is not frowned upon? Or, you know, or that kind of sentiment. And I think the thing is, for me personally, the thing that bothers me is not the fact that it's a bunch of strong people together. That honestly, find a common ground. Like I get that. I get that sentiment and I understand why that is a strategy. My thing that I have the issue with is I hate to use this word, like the holier than thou of they're the ones that's the game that you play. Like that's the one that is like the good game that'll get you to the end. And I think that has to do a little bit with the edit, but I really don't care if a bunch of strong dudes are in an alliance. Like honestly, that I really don't care. It's the fact that they are the ones that get to say they're playing an honest game. And I think this comment is I could not put this into words, and I think this is exactly what it is. Maddie commented, I feel like the Strong Five have the privilege of playing an honest game because they're challenge beasts. And I think that's a very good point. Because
it's a really good point.
You said it perfectly, Maddie, because I think that, you know, not everyone has to be, if you're winning the challenges, you don't have to play as strategically. You don't have to be as cutthroat. You don't have to do all that other stuff because you can win the challenges. And I think it's a really good point.
Yeah. And you have the numbers on your side. So who are you really lying to? There's no need to. No one else has any power to do anything against you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
I also think it's always like thorny to tell other people that you're playing with that there's like a right way to play or a wrong way to play. And then especially when you're saying I'm doing it the right way and you're doing it the wrong way, like no matter who the alliance is composed of, that kind of like condescension in a game, as Camila brought up, where you have to manage your jury and they're going to vote for you to win, like that's not a winning strategy. And maybe if the Strong Five was working together in a way that didn't feel so like, I don't know, like exactly like you said, Teg, with like holier than thou, maybe it would feel a little bit better. But that attitude, and not all of them, to be clear, are pushing that. I feel like it's mainly David. But yeah, it makes it a little less rootable.
Exactly. And Daryl says smart gameplay, it can win Survivor if all strong alliance people are in the final 3. And I think that's a great point. But I think that there are people within this alliance who are playing it slightly better than others. And I think Joe is one of those people, because I think that like Joe is able to balance, like, I'm playing an honest game, because again, he doesn't really have to do, like, there are other people doing like a little bit more heavy lifting in that sense. But also, like, I don't know. It's just a very interesting thing that we haven't really seen a lot in Survivor. I mean, we saw the Reba group in 45, and Dee goes on to win the game. And it's because she's sitting next to somebody, you know, she's sitting next to Austin, who got some votes as well. But so I think if we go to the end, we could see one. I definitely think one of them is going to win. Like, there are only 9 people left in the game. 6 people are in this alliance. The odds are, you know, there's a 2/3 chance one of these people is going to win. Right. And I think that it could definitely happen, but it's just like, it has. And I just want to unequivocally say, I really don't care that it's strong dudes. I just don't love the way it's approached, because I think people think that it's strong dude, everyone hates it. That's not the case. At least it's not the case for me.
I think that, that's definitely why a lot of people hate it, but I think that that's not like necessarily a fair reason to hate it. I keep coming back to the point that you brought up, Kara, which is like, David wants to bring to the end the people who would vote for him to win. And that's what makes it a bad strategy, I think. That's like going to be tough for him.
Absolutely.
Yeah. If he could somehow maneuver a way to get the other strong people out without them being mad at him and make it to the end, I think that would be so impressive.
Very impressive.
I don't know if that probably won't happen, but that would be very impressive.
I'd love to see it. I'd love to watch it.
Yeah,
but
I'll watch it.
I don't know if it happened. Okay, we have this question from Graph X Jessica. Who do you think from 44 would have the best chances of succeeding on 48 with this cast?
Ooh, that's such an interesting question, and it points to something that was brought up this week with David and Chrissy. Like, David kind of said to Chrissy explicitly, "You're on the wrong season. Sorry." Because I think that individual player success is so tied to who's there. It's like almost entirely dependent on that, more so than your specific skills. Geez, who would have done well? I mean, based on the conversation we just had, maybe me. I mean, maybe they would like the challenge thing, but I feel like I'm thinking about how well Kyle is positioned. And so I'm thinking about people like that who are kind of like, I'm sorry, I'm so biased. I'm like, who's strong and smart and social? Matt. He would maybe do well. But I think a lot of the people on 44 are really adaptable and would be able to do pretty well in a season like this.
Yeah, it's a great. I mean, you have the casting in the new era has been very, very good. And so I think that, and I think, I think that we said it earlier, you do the same season with the same exact people, you're going to get a different outcome most likely. And you're going to see somebody else do better. So I think that there are a lot of people who would do great. Matt was honestly my first thought, and I don't know.
Yeah, he's a very, in my opinion, like I really do think he's a very all-around player. Like, I don't know that we got to see so much of his social game because a lot of his narrative was around me or him losing a bazillion votes and finding a fake idol and all that bananas. But like when we hit the merge beach, everyone loved him. I made no friends and he made like 10 friends. And I was like, oh crap, I'm screwed. So he's like I think he's a really strong player. I shouldn't be saying all this in case he ever goes back. That sucks. He's no threat to anyone.
I also think Heidi could be good. Heidi was 44, right?
Yeah, Heidi would be really good. Yeah.
She is strong.
I think that she could totally like align herself with that vibe. I think she could also align herself with the vibe of the people on the bottom. I think that's something she did really well on 44, was like being in the ear of different groups and like kind of shifting her energy based on who she was with.
Heidi was Ryan's winner pick that season.
Heidi's fabulous.
Heidi loves Ryan. That also. Heidi also says hi. She sent in a question that you don't have to answer.
Listen to us gush about her. Oh my God. Heidi, I miss you. I haven't seen you in so long. No wedding anytime soon, but a girl can dream someday. The biggest relationship update I have is that Matt and I were like this close to getting a dog, and then our landlord said no. So if anybody knows the landlord of my building,
We don't like
Find them. We don't like them.
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. Okay, here is a question that I'm going to ask the question, but then I have a follow-up, the actual question, because I think it's a little bit of a big question. So Lucas Stoli said, did Frannie get the call for 50? And if so, how was the casting process different? Now, don't answer that question because that could be too telling. But what I would love to ask as a kind of a follow-up theme is, so who are some people that you would love to see on maybe 50 or maybe like a returning second chance this season?
Yeah, that's a great question. Thank you for giving me a different question to answer. This, in this economy, you can't be answering questions like that. I want Christian Hubicki. We've already name dropped him on this podcast. I want to see him back on my screen so bad. I've had the pleasure to meet him in real life a couple times. I think he's just like absolutely wonderful. There are a lot of new era people that I want to see back, mostly because of what we just talked about, how your gameplay is so different based on who you're with. There are people who maybe performed really, really well in their season that I'd like to see how they fare in a different group of people. There are some people like Maddie Pamela, who was out early, and she's a rock star. Put her on a different season, you know what I mean? And so I just love so many people that have been on the show, and I really think that like almost everyone has the chance to shine if you give them a second chance. So I'm just excited to see whoever makes it on 50. I think it'll be really fun.
I think it's going to be a really fun thing to watch. Kara, do you have any needs or wants for 50 or a second chance?
What are your needs?
Need Jelinski back. Need Todd back. I think those are the two. Oh, and I've said Jay before, but then
Jay Starrett. Yeah,
I would like to see him on Survivor again.
Not
the challenge.
Actually, you reminded me of my other. I don't think that he's like that out of left field pick, but we don't hear about him enough. Devin Pinto, man, I love him. Get him back.
That's somebody Ryan has actually said Devin Pinto multiple times because he's like, I think that people have forgotten about Devin Pinto, but absolutely agreed.
I also love Lauren Rimmer from that season. That was like a very underrated season in my opinion, because like the theme was dopey, but really great people on there.
Yeah. I think that's a really great one. Obviously I'm on the Sean Rector train. I've been saying Sean Rector for years because I think that it's a real shame that we haven't seen him anytime soon. And I think if there's a second chance this season, he'll be like the Wigglesworth on second chances, like the OG kind of player, the one person. And I really he's one that I need back. Him and Christian Hubicki are my top two. Like those are my top two people that I need back. I told you back. Truly had like a breakdown when he won that challenge. I had a breakdown when he got voted out. I love Christian Hubicki, and I worry he'll be like a Yao Man kind of like arc because he's just so smart, and everyone's like, we gotta get him out. But
I worry for him. But hey, even if it's a short arc, I want him there. I want to see it.
Exactly, very real. This is an interesting question from Josh. Josh Kettles asked, Frannie, do you think Joe and Eva trust each other more than you and Matt trust each other?
Probably yes. Yeah. I mean, okay. Let me actually answer that question. Like, I think Matt trusted me completely. I think if anyone would have been a little like less invested among these four people that we've listed, it would have been me. But it wasn't that I didn't trust Matt. I trusted him 100%. It was just like, I actually had moments of thinking, does it behoove me to continue moving forward with this person from like a game perspective? But their level of trust is like more similar to mine and Matt's than it should be, given that we're now in like a nearly 3-year relationship. Like it's kind of crazy.
Yeah, that's so funny. Okay, we have two questions that are kind of similar, so I'm going to ask them close to each other. So Diary of the Dioscuri asks Frannie, what do you enjoy more, D&D or Blood on the Clock Tower? And then Adventure Hen asks, what's Frannie's go-to class for D&D?
Oh, wow. Two great questions. I would encourage Adventure Hen in the chat while I answer the first part of this question to guess. But as for D&D, guess my class. Anybody else who knows D&D is welcome to. D&D and Blood on the Clock Tower are truly my two babies. Like, I love them so much. And it is very hard to pick a favorite. I would say that D&D is like my long-term relationship. D&D is my wifey. Like, I will love D&D forever. Blood on the Clock Tower is my like hot, sexy fling, and I am obsessed with it. And every night I'm like calling it up, like, hey, are we playing tonight? Because it is so much fun, and it just like tickles my brain. It's so good. So yeah, anybody who has not played D&D or played Blood on the Clock Tower, like highly encourage you to. Actually, fun little tidbit. Omer and Zach are coming to San Francisco this week, and we're playing Blood on the Clock Tower in person, which I'm awesome. But yeah, so D&D class, maybe I've got, actually, I'll see if they put
they
something.
Didn't, no, I don't think they guessed.
They didn't. Okay, well that's okay.
I guess the green one.
A druid?
No, okay. I don't. Maybe it's not a class.
They don't usually have color. Oh, you mean like that's like a species?
Okay.
The classes are like bard, rogue, fighter, barbarian, druid.
Is there like a thief?
That's the rogue. That's it.
That's what I would guess.
That's what I am in our current campaign, and I love a rogue because my first one was a bard, and the whole thing with a bard is like you're a talker, like you're gonna convince people of things, you're charismatic, but your ability to like do damage is not super high, and I didn't really like that. Like I wanted to like use smarts, but also actually be able to do damage. So I love, I'm an arcane trickster, which is a kind of rogue where you also get spells. Ooh, I love my spells, and I love hiding and then just like going off. It's so fun. So yeah.
I'm very happy that I got that right. Because
yeah, that's great.
I said the green one. I told you about the show. There's a Broadway show.
Yes.
It's called I don't know what it's called. It's called something. It's Dungeons and Dragons something. And it's very fun. It's very good. And when you go in, you can like choose, or in your playbill, you can like choose a class, or it has like the color. It has a color. So there's red, blue, and green. And green was the one that
the rogue.
I thought that maybe that was like a universal D&D thing. It's not. It's just the show. But
but you knew from the beginning.
I knew. And we got like a little pin. I loved our guy. Yeah, we bought it.
I want to go. Is that still
yeah.
on?
I don't think it's
I want to go to that so bad.
People love it, and it's not that expensive to do, I don't think. And people love it. So I think that's on. I think that's going for quite some time.
Hell yeah. We're going to that when I come into New York.
It's really, really cool. Do we have time for one more question?
I'm good.
Yeah. Okay. So this was sent in. So MBV1817 asks, in your opinion, was Mary putting herself at the bottom of the top alliance a good move?
Here's the team. I don't know if she is at the bottom of that top alliance. I think it's Shaheen. And I think if you are Mary, I think it feels way better to get in with somebody who's like ostensibly maybe the leader of this alliance. I think it's debatable whether it's like David or Joe, but somebody who's at the head, get in really tight with them, make them want to advocate for you. That's maybe a better spot to be in than in this like miscellaneous group that's sort of unaligned. Yeah, but we'll see how she fares.
And this is kind of a follow-up. It's a different question, but kind of a follow-up to that. What if Mary gets to the end? We love her online, but do we think the jury will, what do we think the jury will think about her game right now? And I don't know. Like, I think her game, she's the last one standing of her tribe, which I think says a lot. There is one person on the jury who was there on her tribe. So Cedric can kind of confirm or deny, say she's sitting at the end. There's somebody who can corroborate what she says. And I think that's important. Whether or not Cedric will do that well, I don't know. But I think that is important. And I think it's just whether or not the optics is that she was brought in because she's David's number one, or she was brought in because she was actually going to help the alliance. And I think that the optics of it is really going to be like whether or not she gets votes. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. The other thing about Cedric being there is like, what is Cedric going to say? I mean, back at Vula, Mary stuck around because her shot in the dark hit. Yeah. And because they decided to target, Stephanie and Kevin instead. it didn't feel like she had a ton of agency in her longevity on Vula, besides playing the shot in the dark correctly and it hitting. That was a great move by her. But I don't think that he has much that he can like point to for why she has crushed it on early Vula, besides just that she's the last one standing. Yeah. And yeah, I think the optics are really going to be like she was just pulled in as David's buddy. And as David's stock is falling, I think it maybe hurts Mary to be connected to him.
Yeah, I agree. I do. Yeah, I think it's a better position for her to be with the 5, because the other people just aren't doing anything, and they've proven that those 5 have like voted together and have done things together, where no one outside of that has really come together to do anything. So I think that's a safer place to be. But I guess it's what you do with that would depend on what happens with her, if she could win. And like, can you say her shot in the dark worked as something in Final Tribal that people will be like, that's a good point? Like, I was
going to ask that. How do you argue that the shot, like say Caleb gets to the end, right? Like, do people vote for Caleb because he got 11 votes for him and it was negated and everyone's like, wow, that was so lucky, so I'm going to throw a vote your way? Or are people saying like, obviously you made it to the end, but like, I don't know. Like, I feel like almost the shot in the dark hitting keeps you in the game longer, but does it help you if you get to the end? I think it actually hurts your winning chances.
Yeah, no, I agree with that completely, because it's like you were in such a bad position that it is only through luck that you were still in the game. And so it basically reveals like a deficit in your gameplay. Like you should have gone home, but then you know, by this twist, you were able to stay. The other thing about Mary's shot in the dark that's a little different from if Caleb had gotten to the end, really and truly, when you're a jury member, when people at Final Tribal bring up stuff that happened before the merge, especially with a tribe that you were not on, you're like, so like it's so long ago and you don't know the people, that it's kind of like, who cares? And that's something that is unfortunate as well for Kyle and Camila. Like that was a huge move, but I don't know how much they're going to be able to use it at Final Tribal. It helps that Joe and Shaheen are still around and can corroborate, but recency bias is huge with the final 3. And so I think we've seen in a couple seasons, like sometimes like the last person to make a really good big move is the one who wins, because they can talk about it really easily. And Mary doesn't really have that right now.
Yep. It feels really good to hear you say that, because I've said that so many times. I'll literally be at the finale and they'll bring up something. I think it was even like Sam. He like brought up something pre-jury and I was like, nobody cares. Move on.
Yeah.
Like no one is listening to pre-jury stuff. And it sucks because I love the pre-jury. I love the pre-jury game. I think it's a very interesting game in and of itself, because you kind of don't care. You do care because you know you care about people, but like it doesn't really matter if you burn a bridge. It doesn't really matter what happens because they're not going to have any vote at the end of the game. So I think that actually brings out very interesting gameplay and kind of cutthroat gameplay, especially so early in the game. And it sucks that it doesn't really have much bearing onto the end. But I'm one of the people who's like, why are you bringing that up? Nobody on that jury cares. Yeah. Nobody cares.
Well, it's like they don't care. Plus, the fact that you're bringing it up implies that you haven't done anything recently that's good. You know what I mean? It's like, man, you really had to reach back into the memory bag to like pull something out.
It's like saying, look how cool I was in middle school and you're 35 years old.
Yeah, exactly. Like,
cool, man.
Yeah, that's like,
yeah.
I kind of feel like that might have been the case with Genevieve had she made the final 3. I feel like a lot of what she did was in the pre-jury, and I feel like that maybe would have been a lot of what she could have said in her like Final Tribal. I don't know.
I do feel like what she had going for her though is like people really perceived her as a threat the whole way through. So I think there are some people that have like a really strong pre-jury and then sort of like aren't perceived as a threat, but also aren't voted out the rest of the season, and then they make it to the end, and then it's like, what can you talk about? But I don't know. I think she would have struggled with that, but I think that was something she had going for her. Is her? It always felt like she was like escaping being the one voted out.
Yeah. Yeah, I think Final Tribal Council is so interesting because it's like how much of it is really there, how much of it is, people come in with already ideas kind of ingrained, but how do you, when you're sitting there in the final three, how do you use that? Like, I really think Marianne has one of the best Final Tribal Council performances of recent time. She really did a very good job. And I don't know how many people she swayed right there and then. Like, I think that maybe she did a great job when she like brought out the idol or whatever, because she didn't play it, right? She's like, this one was hidden.
Yeah. She said like, I didn't even need it. Like I had so many paths to the end. Yeah.
So I think that I think a good Final Tribal Council performance is very important because, like Amanda Kimmel goes twice, does not do a very good final, like that woman can play a great game of Survivor, but cannot fight for herself in the end. And so it's while I find, hot take, the finale of Survivor is my least favorite episode.
Agree hard.
Yeah.
It's like it's simultaneously too much and like too little of each individual thing. Every part of it feels rushed to me, but it's also like, this is a lot.
Yeah, it's one of the reasons why I don't like, that's one of the reasons why I feel like we need the live reading of the votes, because the live reunion is the part that I find the most interesting in the finale. And like, I don't know that I necessarily care what everyone on the island feels right after it happens. It's like, great. Like, I need everyone 6 months removed to talk about this kind of a situation. While I do think that there are some really, really interesting insights while they're still in the game, I think they could do a little bit of both. But I do think Final Tribal Council is so interesting and very important. And I don't know. I think there's a lot of interesting things that happen there.
Yeah.
Well, I just want to say thank you to everybody who sent in questions. We got so many questions to ask Frannie. So I loved all of these, and I love the roads they take us down. Before we get to the sweet thing and the social butterfly, I do want to ask, we've brought it up a couple of times, but I do want to ask who everyone's winner pick is, like, right, going forward. I don't know, is Kara yours? Kyle? Who's yours?
Yeah, I'm going Kyle. I'm kind of like have Shaheen like right there, like so close behind him, but I'm going Kyle as my winner pick right now.
I've said this before, I'll say it again. I've flabbergasted the premiere. Stephanie Berger was my winner pick, so I had to change course real quick. But I've been on the Kyle train ever since, and I think he's still doing really, really well. So he's still mine.
Yeah. My preseason was Shaheen. I'm sticking with that. And I feel very good about this. Like my preseason winner pick last season was Teeny. And right about now, I was like, I don't think it's going to be him. Like, I don't think it's going to be Teeny. And like Owen, my preseason winner pick was Owen. And right about now, I was like, oh, Charlie Brown music. Not great. Sorry, Owen. I don't
like the Charlie Brown music. Yeah.
I really do think that Shaheen has a good chance, but I really Joe or Kyle. Like, it's so hard to pick because one moment I think it's Shaheen, one moment I think it's Kyle, and one moment I think it's Joe, and it's so hard to like choose because I think I do think it's one of them. Okay, so let's get to Kara's sweet thing of the podcast. Okay, Kara, tell us for those who don't know what the sweet thing is.
So a sweet thing is just something in the episode that you liked, a moment. If there's food that looks good, pretty much anything in the episode that you enjoyed, that stuck out to you, that you liked. I actually kind of struggled with this episode coming up with one, but mine for this one is that moment when Joe and Kyle were talking and Kyle says like, Chrissy was throwing out your name and Joe was like, why didn't you lead with that? And like his reaction to that, I just thought was so good. I just love that moment.
That was a good moment. Mine, I just want to say that this moment, I saw myself on the screen there. After when Eva was stuffing her face with tacos and she had like just all over her face. But that moment, but then also to follow up with that, her curled up in a ball, like with severe like indigestion or just like stomach pain, burping. That's me after any taco night. Like that's me on a Tuesday night after any taco night. And so I saw myself on the screen, and that has to be my sweet thing. Absolutely.
Finally, your representation up there.
Representation matters.
Yeah. Yeah. That's so good. Yeah, I feel like we didn't talk about Eva that much this episode, but she's in a really good position for like how much power she has. Like people should be targeting her more. So, kudos to her as well. My sweet thing is broadly that conversation with Kyle and Camila where he's telling her that it's gonna be her, but specifically when he's like, my heart is with you. That was so cute. And it's like, you believe him. Like there's no question in that moment, like that he's going to go against her. And I just think it was so sweet. Not only how much he fought for her, but how, like kindly he had that conversation with her and, like really reassured her, like, I'm with you. I want you here. I thought that was really sweet.
Yeah. I love that moment. And a lot of people are commenting on my videos, shipping them. Just to be clear, they're both married and wonderful happy relationships.
Yeah.
And it just shows
that we need to do that, but
platonic, somebody that you care about a lot that you're, not necessarily interested in romantically, because they are both, and both of their partners are wonderful. I haven't met Kyle's wife, but Derek I've never met anybody, but Derek is wonderful.
But if I were to,
have met somebody.
The idea of him.
Exactly. I did want to throw out, this is so funny, Noah, I think is Noah's.
Yeah.
That, and the fact that that's now her profile picture dead. And then this is also very sweet. Daryl said Eva leaning her head on Joe. I liked that moment a lot. That was
cute.
Gemini said my sweet thing is Mitch's lunch analogy.
Ooh, that was good too. That was a really great analogy. That was when he said that he was like, this feels like the first day of like, I think he said of high school where you're like trying to decide, do I sit with my friends from middle school or do I go like sit with new people? I'm like, I just want somebody to eat lunch with me.
That was a very
that's a good one.
That was a really good one. I love that people are throwing in their own sweet things now. That makes me happy.
Yeah.
I saw a comment about Eva. I guess it's kind of going off topic, but I saw something that I thought was interesting is how someone commented about showing like Eva in fake danger and then like she was in danger, but it didn't amount to anything. I thought that was interesting. No, like let me see if I can find the comment.
I feel like previously, like there have been a couple times where people have like, there's been discussion around we should target Eva, but then it never gains traction.
Oh yeah.
It was from Daryl, and he said Tom is talking about wanting to target her when she makes a bracelet for Joe's daughter, and the editor's making us worried that the eventual winner will be voted out. So I guess he thinks that could be pointing towards her winner edit.
Well, that's interesting. Yeah, somebody. So I feel like sometimes when somebody wins who is in a pretty good position the whole time, the editors do take care to make it seem as though they were in danger, at least at some point. So that's a really interesting observation.
Yeah, very good observation. I love all of that. Well, we have one more award we have to give out, which is the Social Butterfly Award of the Week. I feel like this week is a particularly difficult week. I don't know.
Whoa! I literally feel like it's so obvious. That's what I thought you were about to say.
I don't know.
I thought you were going to say that too.
It's like milk versus no milk all over again. What's happening?
I don't know. Well, I have a couple of names in my head. What do you guys think?
Oh, I have one name and that's it.
Is it Kyle?
Is yours the same? Yeah, Kyle.
Kyle.
Yeah.
See, I think my thing about with Kyle, that makes sense. Kyle was my first thought. But my thing with Kyle is I think that he has now a rift where there didn't used to be a rift. And but I do think that some of his bonds are stronger because of how he was able to maneuver the vote off of Camila, and he used his social connections and all of that. But I do think that there is a rift now between David and Kyle, and there did not used to be a rift. And I think maybe Kyle still gets it from me, but I do think that that's something to think about.
That's a good point.
Okay, I'm gonna devil's advocate here though. I don't think that this was intentional. But does it help Kyle that there is now a rift? Because now there is a clear opening for him to go to Joe and go to Eva and say, hey, now we have rationale for voting out David. He was pushing so hard. He's off his rocker, whatever.
Yeah, I think that's maybe a good choice. Daryl says Kyle doesn't deserve to win for giving away his connection to Camila. I think at some point, though, you have to.
Yeah. I also don't think he fully gave it away. Like, I don't know how much Joe clocked that. Like it really felt like, David was realizing that, but I don't know that everyone on that beach understands the extent of their relationship.
And again, if they do, I don't know, does it really, there's so many other duos.
Mm-hmm.
I think like at some point it is going to come to light, and why not now? Because now they can make a move, and now they don't really need to care about keeping things hidden. I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing. Maybe similar to the rift not really mattering. Like, I know that it makes sense to keep it hidden, but at some point I think you want to make moves, and when the numbers get down, you're going to have to expose it at some point.
Yeah. And I feel like the way, or at least the way that they showed it, or how I was seeing it, is that he was more like shocked that this was coming up, and he was like, whoa, like, why, how did this happen, like, where did this come from? And I feel like he was being more like surprised and like, let me think this through, like, why is this, like, if that makes sense. Like, he didn't seem like it was because, oh, we're number ones, it's because oh, I'm surprised that this is randomly coming up now.
Yeah,
that's true.
I agree.
He played it off pretty well.
So this comment is the other person I was thinking about. Kyle, or sorry, not this comment. Oh yeah, no, this comment. Kyle makes his rounds like crazy, but everyone seems to want to go to Joe for the final decision. And I think that there is something in that social capital that Joe has. People are going to Joe for approval. They're going to Joe to, like, the way that Kyle said, hey, I need your help with this. Like, please help me convince them. Like, I think
cover me.
Yeah, that was so interesting.
And I think that Joe has some like more social capital than I think, because he plays it so chill, and people come to him. Chrissy called him the Godfather. Like, it's that's the person who I was struggling with, because I do think that there is something in that. We saw Kyle flex his muscles, but Joe is just kind of like sitting there in the back, knowing that he has the muscles.
That's a good point. And I also think that Joe, like, Joe is not my winner pick. Obviously, I just said it's Kyle. And I think that in most seasons, if you're Joe and you've made it this far, 0 shot you're winning, because you have such a huge target on your back. But in this season, I actually totally see it, because Kyle has a confessional where he's like, I actually really like Joe. I trust Joe. He's a straight shooter. So yeah, Joe has like amassed a huge bunch of social capital. He's a good potential butterfly for the week.
Yeah,
he is. And I feel like Joe is a big reason why Shaheen hasn't really been voted out, because Joe is the one saying, like, that's my guy, like, like he said something like that in the reward. And I feel like if he wasn't advocating as much for him, maybe he would have gotten more votes or something. Shaheen would have gotten more votes. So I think he does definitely have a lot of social capital.
Yep.
Not a sway.
I don't know. And Brendan brought this up. Joe luckily has a bunch of shields in front of him. I want to say that here's the other thing. This is kind of going back a bunch of conversations, but it made me think of it. Also the issue that I have with this big alliance is specifically David, who I do like. I really do like David. I think that he's saying, people usually use us as shields, so it's time for us to band together, and if we band together, we'll be able to get to the end. And I think that's the big thing. They are using each other as shields, because I think, like what you said, Frannie, in any other season, Joe has so much, like, he's such a big target. He has so much social capital. He's so big. He's a challenge threat. He would not go far. But because he is in this alliance of other big people, he's like a zebra. He's like a zebra. He's getting lost in that group. And I really think that, like, I think that they are using each other as shields, even if they don't want to admit to it. But that's what the alliance is about. It's like, they usually pick us off as big guys, so let's stick together. And I think that's really, and hey, that's not bad. If that's how you get to the end, great, right? But like, I really think that they are using each other as shields, even if they don't want to admit it.
Yeah, that's a great point. And then, like, David is a huge shield for Joe. And then Eva too, incredibly strong and has the idol. Like, that will always be a little bit more threatening than Joe.
Kyle's a
Yeah.
little bit more strategic. He's a little bit
Yeah.
more overtly strategic. So even though he's a physical threat, there's that strategy right there. So he's
same
gonna
with Shaheen, maybe like a little bit of a better liar, like a little more sneaky. I also think that like the casting on this season is really interesting. Like, it's just a pretty jacked season. And that's like that, you know, whether that's intentional or not, we don't know. But I think that that's another like element that is outside of the player's control, but that like led to this happening. Like usually there aren't this many giant people on one season. It's like one or two.
Yeah.
Very interesting. Well, I think that I just want to say, very fun podcast. And I know that not everyone was super high on this episode, but I knew that we would have a lot of fun chatting about it.
I loved it. I thought it was great.
I'm smiling too much.
Yeah, same. No, that's actually happened to me every time we've done this podcast. I get off and then I go to Matt and I'm like, my face hurts. What did they do to you? Yeah, this was so much fun. We, you know, some people may have thought that we had lemons, but we made a hell of a lot of lemonade out of this episode.
Absolutely.
Definitely.
You know, I know you said you're not using a lot of social media right now, but if you do, where can people find you?
Yeah, I am at Hail the Veil on everything. So that's where everybody can find me. And yeah, you know, I'm more of a lurker these days, but on the off chance I post something, if you want to follow, go for it.
Anything you want to like plug? You know, Frannie and Matt for Amazing Race.
Yes. You know, if there's ever a voting component to Amazing Race, please vote for Matt and Frannie. I will plug actually just yesterday. We recorded the last ever session of our D&D podcast. And so it'll be like a couple weeks here before that is released. But it's wrapping up. And the cool thing about a D&D podcast is that it is untethered to time. You know, we're not recapping episodes. We're not really talking about current events at all. And so even if you haven't listened to it before, you can hop in on episode 1 and like start the journey whenever. So that's been like such a positive light in my life the past year and a half. And I'm like, think it's really cool to be able to share it with people. So that podcast is called Surviving the Dice, comes out on like, you know, Spotify and Apple Podcasts and all that stuff. So check that out too.
Amazing. Oh my gosh. I will. I still haven't gotten into D&D other than the show, but it's definitely something that I know I would love. So I'm going to definitely check that out. Yeah, Kara, where can people find you?
Instagram, XOX_Kara. Here on this podcast, Sweet Things Podcast, you know, right here, mostly.
You already found me. I'm right here.
Yeah, exactly.
I just so for now we've got so much coming up as always. We've got our pre-show and post-show on Wednesday. We've got Stock Watch on Thursdays. We've got something for you. And just to keep in the future, keep a lookout. We do have Australian Survivor versus the World coverage. Obviously, that's going to be in the summer, but like, I mean, you can start preparing now. Start getting excited now because it's going to be so much fun. Any last things that y'all want to say before we pop off? No, head out. Not pop off.
Pop off.
We could pop off in the last couple of seconds here. We want to.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I just want to say I think this is such a fun season, and I, you know, encourage everybody to, you know, find the joy in it. It's so fun. Watching Survivor is so fun, and trust me, your experience is better if you enjoy your favorite show than if you complain about it. So my you know, dialogue today is very biased by my re-download of Twitter and then subsequent deletion. But yeah, this is the bbest show ever, and like, enjoy it. We're eating good.
Yeah. No one hates Survivor more than a Survivor superfan.
True.
Truly wild. Well, thank you all so much for tuning in, chatting with us, commenting, and we can't wait to talk to you all next week. We got Brian Corden on the show, so it's going to be so much fun. So until next week, we love you all, and don't forget to stay social. Bye.